Welcome back to Explaining Everything, the channel where we dive into the stories and mysteries behind everyday things. Today's question comes from one of our curious viewers, Science Snack 42. Thanks for the submission, Science Snack. You asked, who was behind the invention of aspirin? Now, aspirin might seem like just another thing in your medicine cabinet, chilling somewhere between the cough syrup and those weird leftover vitamins you swear you'll take eventually. But aspirin's history? Oh, it's got drama, it's got ancient trees, it's got corporate sabotage, and yes, it even has a guy who literally gave himself ulcers for science. Let's get into it, right here on Explaining Everything. Long before we had neat little white tablets with expiration dates, people were chewing on tree bark, specifically willow bark. And no, it wasn't a prehistoric dare. Ancient civilizations like the Sumerians, Egyptians, and Greeks noticed that chewing on willow bark seemed to ease pain and reduce fevers. Hippocrates, the OG of medical advice, recommended it for everything from childbirth pain to the ancient version of "ow, my joints." The active ingredient in willow bark is called salicin. And when you digest salicin, your body eventually turns it into salicylic acid, which is great for pain but kind of terrible for your stomach lining. Still, when your other option is live with the pain and maybe bleed out from an infected hangnail, willow bark was a win. So, technically, nature invented aspirin. But don't worry, we're about to get way messier than trees. Fast forward to the 1800s. Science was having a glow-up. Instead of chewing bark like woodland creatures, chemists wanted to isolate the pain-fighting part and turn it into something you could bottle and sell, because obviously, capitalism. In 1828, a German pharmacist named Johann Buchner extracted a bitter-tasting yellow powder from willow bark and called it salicin. Then, in 1838, another dude named Raffaele Puria figured out how to turn salicin into salicylic acid. And just like that, we had pain relief in a pure form. But here's the thing, salicylic acid is also the molecular version of a sledgehammer. Sure, it gets rid of your headache, but it might also melt your stomach lining on the way down. Oops. Enter Bayer. Yes, that Bayer, the pharmaceutical company that's now best known for aspirin, but back then was just trying to cook up something profitable that didn't, destroy people's insides. Here's where the plot thickens, like a bad batch of cough syrup. In 1897, a 29-year-old chemist named Felix Hoffmann was working for Bayer. His dad had horrible arthritis and couldn't handle the salicylic acid pills. So Felix did what any good son/chemist would do. He went into the lab and messed with molecules until he found a way to make the stuff gentler on the stomach. What he came up with was acetyl salicylic acid, a chemical cousin of salicylic acid, but way easier on your guts. And guess what? It worked! He gave it to his dad, the pain went down, and the stomach stayed intact. Win-win. Felix showed it to Bayer. They were like, "Nice job, Felix! Now go back to your corner." And then, plot twist, someone else tried to steal the credit. So here's where it gets juicy. For decades, Bayer credited Felix Hoffmann as the guy who invented aspirin. That was the story in textbooks, ads, and press releases. But then, in the 1940s, Arthur Eichengrün, another chemist at Bayer, said, "Hold up, that was actually my idea." According to Arthur, he told Hoffmann to synthesize acetylsalicylic acid as part of a broader project. He claimed Bayer pushed him out of the story because he was Jewish, and this was during a time when Germany wasn't exactly being cool about diversity in the workplace, to say the least. Eichengrün even published a paper in 1949 laying out his side. But because, history is written by the people with better PR, Hoffmann remained the official face of aspirin for a long time. Modern scholars are still debating it. Some say Eichengrün has a strong case. Others say there's not enough evidence. Either way, someone at Bayer invented aspirin in 1897, and someone else probably got very salty about it. Corporate drama. The painkiller edition. Once Bayer realized they had a blockbuster on their hands, they started marketing aspirin like it was magical fairy dust. And to be fair, it kind of was. It was cheap, effective, and didn't require boiling bark. They trademarked the name Aspirin in 1899 and started selling it globally. But then came World War I, and things got awkward. Because Bayer was a German company, the US government seized their US assets, including the trademark. So in America, aspirin became a generic name. That's why we say aspirin, like it's Kleenex. But technically, in other countries, it's still Bayer's brand. Also, fun fact, Bayer tried to sell heroin as a cough syrup around the same time. So, yeah, aspirin was definitely the smarter long-term bet. So, who was behind the invention of aspirin? Technically, a tree. Then a bunch of chemists poked it with beakers for a few centuries. Felix Hoffmann put the finishing touch on it, maybe under Arthur Eichengrün's direction, and Bayer made sure everyone on Earth had a bottle of it by the nightstand. It's got ancient roots, corporate drama, possible credit theft, and a dad with sore joints at the center of it all. Honestly, that's more excitement than you'd expect from a pill that just chills out your headache. If you like this video, hit that like button like it's a bad migraine, and don't forget to subscribe while you're at it. Also, if you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for tuning in, and join us next time here in the channel that answers all the why, what, who, where, and how questions you've always wondered about, here on Explaining Everything.